Have you ever sat quietly in your favorite chair, maybe with a cup of tea or your dog curled up by your feet, and wondered, how did things get this way with my kids? You raised them, loved them, gave them everything you had, your time, your energy, your years, and now somehow you're the one who ends up feeling like a burden, or worse, like a stranger. It happens more than people want to admit. A mother who worked 2 jobs to keep her kids fed, only to be told she's too needy when she asks for a simple phone call. A father who helped his son through college, but is now told he shouldn't expect anything back. At this stage in life, you deserve peace, not guilt. Respect, not ridicule. And yet, for many seniors, the pain of being mistreated by your own children is one of the hardest, most confusing heartbreaks to carry. That's why we need to talk about this. Not out of bitterness or blame, but out of self-respect. Because there are things your adult children might say that go beyond simple disagreement or personality differences. I'm talking about deeply harmful, soul-cutting phrases that no parent should ever hear, and certainly never tolerate. And if you do hear them, you need to understand what they mean and why, for the sake of your own dignity. The best thing you can do is walk away. Not to punish them, but to protect yourself, your peace, your golden years. So, let's talk about it. There are 5 things your kids might say that should stop you in your tracks. And if any of them sound familiar, it may be time to create distance, even if it hurts. Let's start with the first one, and it's a big one. When your child says, "I didn't ask to be born." Now, I want you to sit with that for a second. That sentence on the surface might sound like a sarcastic remark, maybe even a teenager's tantrum left over from their younger years. But when it's said by an adult child, someone with a mortgage, a job, maybe even kids of their own, it cuts deep. It's more than just a complaint. It's a rejection of everything you've ever done for them. It's their way of taking all your years of sacrifice and saying, none of it matters, because I never wanted to be here. And here's the real issue. It's not just ungrateful, it's emotionally abusive. It's a manipulation. It implies that you somehow owe them something forever, because you had the audacity to bring them into the world. As if parenting them, feeding them, housing them, loving them, wasn't an act of devotion, but a lifelong debt you'll never pay off. That's not a relationship. That's a trap. Let me be clear. You don't owe your children forever. You owed them a childhood, safety, education, love, and you gave that. You did your part. You stayed up when they were sick. You cried when they succeeded. You did the best you could with the tools and the time you had. So if they're still holding your love over your head like it's a contract they never signed, they're not treating you like a parent. They're treating you like a villain in a story they refuse to rewrite. And here's the truth you need to hear. That kind of language is not love. It's not respect. It's not even frustration. It's an emotional dagger thrown at the one person who probably gave them more grace than anyone else ever will. You don't need to argue. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't even need to explain your heart anymore. Just step back. Choose peace over proximity. If someone resents your existence, stop fighting for space in their life. Now let's move to the second phrase, one that's often said with a smile, but behind it is a warning. When your child says, "You're lucky I even talked to you." That one stings, doesn't it? Because it doesn't just suggest you're an afterthought. It declares it. If your son or daughter says this, whether directly or indirectly, what they're telling you is, your presence in my life is a favor, not a right. And that's not just disrespectful, it's degrading. You gave them life, and now they act like a 5-minute phone call is a charitable act. They expect you to be grateful for crumbs, for the occasional birthday text, or a rushed visit once a year. And if you dare to ask for more, a little warmth, a little attention, they make you feel like you're asking for the moon. it's subtle emotional control. Because when someone tells you that you're lucky they even acknowledge you, they're positioning themselves above you, as if they're the gatekeeper of love, and you're just a beggar at the door. But you are not a beggar. You are a whole human being. You raised a child, not a king or queen, and respect should always be a two-way street, no matter how old they are or how busy life gets. If a relationship with your adult child feels like you're constantly trying not to upset them, constantly tiptoeing around their moods just to stay in their good graces, then it's time to ask yourself a hard question. What am I actually getting from this connection? Because if the answer is stress, shame, and sorrow, that's not a relationship. That's emotional blackmail. You deserve more than that. You deserve consistency. You deserve to be spoken to like a human being, not like someone who's lucky to be remembered. Now, sometimes people say things out of frustration. We've all said words we didn't mean. But when it becomes a pattern, when they make you feel like their affection is something you have to earn, you have to decide if that's the kind of love you want in your life. And that brings us to the third phrase, which may sound subtle, but it speaks volumes. When your child says, "You need to respect my boundaries even if that means I don't talk to you." Now listen, boundaries are important. We all have a right to set limits in our relationships, even with family. But there's a difference between healthy boundaries and cold walls, between self-care and emotional punishment. If your child sets a boundary that means completely cutting you off, giving you the silent treatment for weeks or months, refusing to even have a conversation, that's not a boundary. That's abandonment with a polite label on it. It's okay for your child to need space. Maybe you had disagreements. Maybe they need time to heal. But if they weaponize the idea of boundaries to isolate you, to control you, to punish you every time you say something they don't like, that's not healthy. That's emotional control dressed up as self-help. And the hardest part? They might even have other people convinced. Friends, therapists, spouses. They'll say things like, "I'm protecting my peace," or "I'm going no contact for my mental health." But who's protecting your peace? Who's taking care of your mental health while you sit by the phone, wondering what you did wrong, reliving every word of the last conversation, aching for a second chance that never comes? Let me say this clearly. If someone uses boundaries as a sword instead of a shield, to cut you out instead of protect their space, you are allowed to let go. You are allowed to say, period. "I love you, but I will no longer be treated like a villain." Because boundaries work both ways. If they want distance, respect that. But don't let them guilt you into believing it's all your fault. Sometimes people need to step away to find themselves. And sometimes you need to step away to remember who you are. You are not defined by how often your child calls you. You are not less worthy because someone else forgot how much you once gave them. And if they ever remember and they reach back out, maybe there will be room for healing. But for now, your healing starts with letting go of the hope that this time will be different when all the signs say otherwise. There's a moment, and if you've lived long enough, you know exactly what I mean. When silence becomes louder than words. When a door that used to swing open with love now barely cracks open out of obligation. And when you finally gather the courage to speak up about how you feel, what you need, period, or how their words are hurting you. They look you in the eye and say this next one: "You're too sensitive." It sounds small. It might even sound like a joke. But when that phrase comes from your own child, especially in the middle of a painful or heartfelt conversation, it lands like a slap in the face. Because you're not being too sensitive. You're being human. You're expressing something real. You're reaching out, trying to bridge a gap, trying to protect a relationship you value. And instead of being met with compassion or even just simple understanding, You're brushed off like you're some kind of emotional inconvenience. You're too sensitive is a phrase people use when they don't want to take responsibility for how they made you feel. It flips the script. Suddenly, you're not hurt because they were cruel. You're just weak, emotional, overreacting. That's not love. That's deflection. That's minimizing your experience so they don't have to face their own behavior. And let me tell you something. There is no age limit on dignity. You could be 65, 75, or 95, and still deserve to be heard without shame. Still deserve to feel respected in your own story. Still deserve to say, "That hurt me," without being accused of being dramatic or emotional. You've lived through wars, losses, sacrifices, heartaches, and somehow you're being told that feeling pain from your own child's words makes you weak? Nonsense. Here's the truth. People who care, listen. People who value you, lean in when you speak. They don't label your feelings as overreactions. They don't roll their eyes or change the subject or make it about your age. They sit with you in the uncomfortable parts because they know love isn't always easy, but it's always worth showing up for. So the next time you hear, "You're too sensitive," I want you to pause. I want you to hear that phrase for what it really is. A warning. A warning that this person, even if it's your own child and is not ready to take accountability, not ready to meet you where you are, and that's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of their growth. You don't have to argue. You don't have to justify your feelings. And you don't have to beg someone to see you clearly. If they won't, that's their loss, not yours. Now, let's talk about the fifth phrase. And this one. This one is especially cruel. It sounds logical on the surface, but underneath, it's cold as ice. It's when your child looks at you and says, "You've had your life. Now let me live mine." It stings because it's dismissive. It says, "Your time is up. You don't matter anymore. Your role is over." As if love has an expiration date. As if you only mattered while you were changing diapers or paying tuition or handing out keys to their first car. But let me ask you something. Does love end just because someone grows up? Of course not. So why should respect? Yes, your child is an adult now. Yes, they deserve independence and space to build their own lives. But being grown doesn't mean cutting the people who raised you out of the picture. It doesn't mean treating your parents like old chapters in a book you've outgrown. If anything, adulthood should deepen the connection. It should bring a sense of gratitude, maturity, and a stronger understanding of just how much parenting costs, physically, emotionally, financially. And yet, some children throw that phrase out like it's a shield. "I need space. I'm living my life now. Don't interfere." But what they're really saying is, don't ask for anything. Don't expect anything. Don't remind me of what I owe. It's harsh, but it's true. That kind of language is often a way to escape responsibility without saying it outright. It's not about boundaries. It's about disconnect. It's about removing the emotional thread that ties them to you so they can move through life guilt-free. But you don't need to carry their freedom on your back. You can love them and still step back. You can wish them well and still protect your own peace. Because if being part of their life means constantly being told you're outdated, intrusive, or in the way, then it's not a life you need to be chasing. You're not obsolete. You're not a relic. You're still here. You still have wisdom, warmth, and value. And if someone, even your own child, can't see that, it's not your job to keep proving it. Now, I know this is not easy. I know there's a part of you that says, "But they're my baby. I can't just let go." And I hear you. Truly, I do. But love without respect is not enough. You deserve to be treated with kindness, with consistency, with honor. And if all you're getting are crumbs, sarcasm, guilt trips, shame, neglect, then it's okay to walk away. It's okay to say, period. I still love you, but I'm not going to beg to be loved back. Because here's the truth that so many people overlook. Your peace is not a selfish thing. It's a sacred thing. And the longer you stay in a dynamic where your heart is constantly being bruised, the harder it is to heal. No one is entitled to mistreat you just because they share your blood. So, what do you do when you hear these words? You pause, you breathe, and you remember who you are. You are a survivor, a provider, a protector, a builder of legacies. You are someone who gave, sometimes too much. And it's time you started giving back to yourself. Walk with your head high. Let go with grace. Choose yourself not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because you deserve peace. And peace doesn't beg. There's a quiet kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from strangers or distant acquaintances. It comes from the people you held, raised, and rooted for. From the child whose first word you celebrated. From the one you stayed up with all night when they had a fever, who you prayed over, hoped for, and gave everything to. And when that child grows up and starts saying things that wound you instead of warm you, it doesn't just hurt, it confuses your whole world. You start questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? Was I too soft? Was I too hard? Did I call too much? Not enough? Let me tell you something with all the clarity and love I can muster. Love does not guarantee gratitude. And doing your best as a parent does not always create a perfect child. Sometimes, no matter how much you gave, how well you raised them, or how deeply you loved, people still grow into adults who choose distance, disrespect, or coldness, and that is not your fault. You see, aging has a way of opening your eyes. In your 60s, 70s, 80s, you begin to see what really matters. You begin to feel your energy more precious, your time more limited, and suddenly, you realize you don't have the years to keep chasing people who make you feel small, especially when those people came from you. Now, I'm not here to paint all adult children as ungrateful or cruel. Many are kind, loving, supportive, but for those who aren't, for those who've chosen to weaponize your age, your emotions, your need for connection, you do not have to keep offering your heart to be stepped on. And that's the moment of power. That's the shift. Because so many of us were taught, especially in older generations, that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that no matter what, we must stick it out, keep giving, keep forgiving. But what if I told you, peace is more important than tradition? What if I told you that boundaries don't mean bitterness, they mean balance? What if I told you that it's not unloving to let go of someone who refuses to treat you with respect? Yes, they are your children, but you are not their doormat. You are not just a holiday phone call or a source of money or someone to be tolerated. You are still a person, still a soul, still a parent, even if they've forgotten how to treat you like one. Now maybe you're not ready to walk away completely. That's okay. These things are rarely black and white. But you can begin by reclaiming your space, emotionally and mentally. You can stop waiting by the phone. You can stop bending your plans, your hopes, and your spirit around their mood swings. You can stop explaining your worth to someone who's already made up their mind. And you can start nurturing your own life again. It's not too late. You're not too old. Your story isn't finished. Go where the love is. That might mean building deeper friendships. It might mean joining a new community. It might even mean learning how to sit with yourself and realize that your own company is enough. Because sometimes the loneliest feeling in the world is not being alone. It's being in a relationship where your presence is unwanted and your voice is unheard. So, let me remind you of something powerful. Your age does not make you disposable. It makes you rare. It makes you seasoned. It makes you a living library of experiences, emotions, and wisdom that no one else on this earth has quite like you. And if your children can't see that, if they choose to minimize you, guilt you, or emotionally manipulate you, then you must find the strength to lovingly detach. Yes, you can love them. Yes, you can still wish them well, but from a safe distance, from a place where your joy isn't dependent on their mood, from a place where you can look in the mirror and say, I am enough, even if they never say thank you. And you are. You are enough. You gave your love. You gave your life. And now it's time to give yourself something you've given others for decades. Compassion. If you're watching this right now and tears are welling up in your eyes, know that you're not alone. There are thousands, maybe millions of parents just like you, who gave everything and got silence in return, who were present for every chapter of their children's lives, only to be forgotten in the epilogue. But that does not mean your story is over. That does not mean your life is behind you. That does not mean you have to accept emotional scraps just to keep the title of parent. You still matter. So take a deep breath. Let go of the guilt that isn't yours. Release the role that's become a cage and start walking, slowly, gently, toward people, places, and moments that remind you of your beauty, your power, and your peace. Because these years, they're yours, not theirs. And I'll say this one more time in case you forgot. If they're using words to control you, if they're making you feel small for speaking up, if they're telling you that love is a transaction, not a connection, if they're mocking your emotions, your needs, or your presence, if they're treating your existence like an inconvenience, then you don't need a lecture. You need an exit, and it's okay to take it. Now, if any of this resonated with you, if you've been in this place or are in this place, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. You're not alone. Your voice deserves to be heard, even if your kids won't listen. And if you found this video comforting, helpful, or empowering in any way, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more conversations like this, because you deserve a community that lifts you up, not one that breaks you down. Here's to dignity. Here's to healing. And most of all, here's to you. You are not too old to walk away from what hurts. You are not too late to find what heals. And you are not too broken to build a better tomorrow. Take care of yourself. You've taken care of everyone else long enough. We'll see you in the next video. And until then, live boldly, love wisely, and never apologize for protecting your peace.